Are the dominoes about to fall into place for what would undoubtedly be a wild transfer that nobody saw coming just days ago? Possibly. Stick around to find out why. Meanwhile, welcome back to the City Ramble, leading the conversation in the world of Manchester City. It's been a couple of days, a couple of weeks, in fact, since we've done a face-to-face video like this. There's been plenty of content on the channel, though, including 2 episodes reviewing the Spurs defeat. We go into all of the specifics, the big talking points. So if you want to, make sure to check that out. In the meantime, though, do be sure, whilst you're down there, to hit the subscribe button and get involved in the City Ramble Discord so you can discuss things, all things Manchester City with fellow Blues. But there's been late news. At the time of recording, Monday night, we've just watched Newcastle versus Liverpool. Liverpool not looking good. Liverpool looking shaky. It feels like everyone went a little bit too early on them. Maybe we'll discuss that later on in the week. But news regarding Manuel Akanji, because it was obviously made public, or at least it was reported at the end of last week, that Galatasaray were looking at potentially getting involved in a deal. There was talk about a £15 million bid or something, £18 million, I think it was. £15 million? City wanted £18 million. Anyway, it was then obviously left out of the Spurs squad for the game at the weekend. He and Ilkay Gundogan weren't involved. But now we've had it from a source who I believe is a journalist in the bio. It says journalist for Sun Sport, so The Sun, appeared on Sky Sports and BBC Sport. Maybe not the best of sources. We'll see. But they're claiming that Crystal Palace have lodged a £15 million bid for Manuel Akanji. The journalist in question is Lianos Kostas. Apologies if I've got any of the names wrong there, but that's his Twitter handle anyway. Which is interesting, isn't it? Because Akanji was obviously, if you saw the Fabrizio Romano post on Instagram, for the brief amount of time it was up, Akanji was said to have, from his own personal account, come out and sort of rebuffed that. Said it wasn't true. Said that this talk about going to Galatasaray, he knew nothing about. And at that point, you go in, you can see maybe City want to get rid of him. They're looking at, obviously, they paid 15 million quid a couple of seasons ago. You know, can they break even? Can they even make a couple of £1 million profit? But it would need the player to agree to it. That's kind of where we were at. Maybe he was doing that because actually he's got what he'd consider better offers. And I mean, on the surface, you go Crystal Palace. Are they where he would want to be playing in this point of his career? Well, he gets to stay in the Premier League, which is, as we know, the most watched league in the world. That's where the eyes are on it. So it's attractive. Gets to move to London. And I know people might say, well, London's, not up so much. Tell you what, if you're a millionaire and you've got the money, London's probably one of the best places in the world to live. Sorry, it just is. But also, Palace are in the Europa League this season, which I think maybe, just looking at some of the reaction online from, certain, not even just City fans, but even non-City fans, maybe that's going under the radar a little bit. He's still playing European football. And in a World Cup year, not that Manuel Akanji's place in the Switzerland team, I don't think anyway, don't necessarily know what sort of centre-back depth they've got going on there. But it doesn't feel like his place in the squad is going to be up for debate. It feels like he's going to go even if he sticks at City and he doesn't play that much. But if Pep Guardiola's leaving him out of matchday squads, I think Pep said it was something along the lines of rotation. Maybe there's an alarm bell in his head going, I can't risk that. It's probably going to be his last World Cup, given his age. And you're thinking, Palace, Premier League, European football, stays in England sort of, but gets to move to London, which is, in my opinion, if you've got the money, probably a better place to live. I know that might, I'm not slating Manchester at all. I think Manchester's a much better city than London if you're just a regular person. But if you've got the millions, then London's, it is what it is. Anyway, we're not talking about that. But there's another aspect of this deal which I find really interesting. Before we get in, sort of delve a little bit deeper, another shout out, if you haven't already, make sure to be subscribing for daily Man City content as well. Getting involved in the Discord, and leave a like if you can as well. That'll be greatly appreciated. But there was tentative talk in the Daily Star, which again kind of went under the radar a little bit because everyone's focusing on Donnarumma, Rodrigo, Savinho, but talk that Man City could be interested in Marc Guehi. And you go again, where has this come from? How does this work? But if you look at City's centre-backs, I made a video, the City Ramble put out a video, but I was the one speaking about it. But right at the start sorry, no, it would have been just after the Club World Cup saying City are doing a really good job of getting all these new players in. Obviously, the rebuild has started. What is it, 8 players since the start of the January transfer window, something like that. But lurking over the hill was a real problem in the centre-back area that City would probably need to address next summer. Well, what if they go and do it now? Because with Marc Guehi, they've got an Englishman who's obviously, helps with the homegrown quota. They've got a 26-year-old, I think he is, who's coming right into his prime right now. And we've seen with Reinders, we've seen with Marmoush, City have been targeting players who are ready to go now. He's got the Premier League quality. He's got international quality with England, so he knows what it's like to play under a little bit of pressure. He was great for Palace last year. I think he's great for a while. And in some of the group chats I'm in with other City supporters, he's a name that I've mentioned as like, go and get him, City. And when Liverpool have been linked to him, it's been really frustrating for me because I'm like, this guy ticks so many boxes. Why aren't City putting their foot on the gas, going after Marc Guehi? Possibly it's because they haven't been able to move any of the players along. Well, maybe they can now. Maybe Manuel Akanji leaving because Manuel Akanji isn't homegrown. And City, if you look at their numbers right now, are currently, I think, including all the players that are at the squad, currently won over the homegrown quota. And I think even if, for example, Donnarumma comes in, Edison leaves, they're going to have to lose a foreign-born player for the Champions League quota, this is, without signing another one. Well, you can sort of help that out by letting go of a non-homegrown player and bringing in a homegrown one. That balances it out in that sense. So I feel like this just makes so much sense. And look, yes, you might say Akanji was a great signing for City. I have always questioned his role in the team. I think he's been a great squad option, but you look at some of the minutes he's played, I'm not necessarily sure he would represent that in terms of quality in City's pecking order. So, for example, I think a couple of seasons ago, he was maybe like one of the highest played minutes for a defender. I think City have got better defenders, and I think especially going into this new era with Guardiola and, the next iteration of City, I don't know if you should necessarily be hanging your hat on him. If he stays, I think he's a very serviceable, easy for me to say, member of the squad. But when you consider they paid so little for him, it's not going to take a lot to break even. He's got a couple of years left in his contract, so maybe now's the best time to sell him. If this is a deal that is possible, I'd be trying to get it done because I think, like I said with Marc Guehi, it ticks so many boxes. Letting him go to Liverpool would just be a massive upgrade for them in terms of their squad depth. He's looking to play regularly. Well, you'd say with the amount of minutes that City have got, he will. The amount of matches City have got, he will. John Stones' fitness is a worry. Nathan Ake, at times, hasn't been able to stay fit. Kusanov, amazing young player, but is he going to get a consistent run in the team? Maybe not. Ruben Diaz, question marks have been over him. I can see where Marc Guehi comes in and actually gets quite a lot of minutes for City this season. He is, in my eyes, could be a really good Pep Guardiola centre-half. And obviously, like we said before, he's ready to go. He's fit. He's 26 years old, I think it is. He can come straight into this team and make an immediate impact. Are the dominoes falling into place for this one to happen? We've had talk about a bid coming in from Crystal Palace, who, if you listen to Oliver Glasner's press conferences recently, he's been really spiky about his side's transfer business. He hasn't been happy with the owners. Maybe that would be a great signing for Palace. He'd go in there and he'd be their best centre half, assuming Marc Guehi leaves. And I think it can be a case of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. The money for City won't be an offer. That's kind of what Liverpool have been scrimping over a little bit. I'm amazed Liverpool haven't gone out and got this one done early doors. And especially when you look at how sort of shaky at the back they were against Newcastle and how they have been shaky at the back so far this season. Was it 4 goals conceded already? I don't know why they've not done it already. I feel like for City, though, it could be a great opportunity. Is there enough time for this one to get over the line? That's the big question, I think, at this point in the window you're asking, because they're working on Donnarumma, allegedly. Possibly there's a Savinho, Rodrigo saga, although that one seems like it's dying down a little bit. Maybe exits for at least 2 City players, you'd say. Edison, and then maybe one of Gundogan Akanji, maybe even both. It feels like there's a lot going on. City is spinning quite a few plates at this moment in time. The Turkish window does stay open a little bit later. I believe that might need fact-checking, but in previous years it definitely has. So maybe they sort of get the signings in and then do deals with Galatasaray. They might have to accept less money. I don't know. But it feels like this one would be a really good one to get over the line. And I hope it happens. I hope it happens because I've been on the Marc Guehi train for a while and I feel like he'd be a massive, massive improvement at Manchester City. But let us know, as usual, what you think. You can do so by getting involved in the Discord. Make sure to be subscribing to the channel. That was a nice 10-minute transfer update. So again, let us know your thoughts. But until next time, it's been a pleasure and we will see you later.